there is a unique conflict between the state of Israel and the terrorist group Hamas. What was said in the last 2 years, and people trying to make Israel look bad, saying that Israel is committing a so-called quote-unquote genocide in the Gaza Strip. This has always been false and is now proven so. I'll give you a few facts. Israel has said since the war began that its two goals are for Hamas to lose control and to disarm. Objective number 1. Objective number 2, that they release the hostages they took on October 7th. On October 7th, they took about 300 hostages. If this ceasefire is upheld in the coming hours, there won't be a single hostage left because Hamas is handing them over. If Israel paused the war for hostages, it shows it's not committing genocide. What's more, if the war ends because the hostages return and because Hamas lays down its arms and stops attacking Israel, I don't think that'll happen. Hamas will always want to eliminate Israel. As before, Israel's military superiority was clear, and I'll explain why. And Hamas, at this moment, they found it necessary to call a ceasefire. If there's a ceasefire, it proves that there was never any so-called genocide. And there are several reasons. Because genocide is when there is an intention to exterminate a population because of their race, because of their beliefs, because of their religion, because of their political ideas. Israel is fighting a defensive war against a radical group seeking to destroy us. That's why the goal is for Hamas to lose power, not to eliminate the people of Gaza. And the proof is now in the ceasefire. Consider how wild it is that everyone who called for this ceasefire, including influencers and Hollywood actors, did so. What's Pascal's name? I don't know what that guy's name is, the one who has issues, who has to hug people because he feels pressured when he's in public and has to touch women. Pasquales, I don't know his name. He said Israel must call a ceasefire and end the genocide, and now there's a ceasefire. Why aren't all those woke people, anti-Zionists, anti-Semites, and Jew haters who support genocide of Jews speaking up now? Why aren't they celebrating the ceasefire? If there's already a ceasefire, what more did you want? And that Israel also wanted it. Think about it. Israel wanted it from day one. What we want is for this war, which we didn't start, to end, and for this war to end. One condition was that Hamas must not give in to the war, must leave power, and must return the hostages to us. Now that these conditions are met and there's a ceasefire, where are the marches? Where is the celebrations? Actually, I'll show you one happening in Gaza's streets. You can see that one of the conditions of this agreement is that the population can return to what is the north of the Gaza Strip. You can watch videos and it blows my mind. They didn't understand anything or what happened here over the past 2 years. The Gazans are saying in videos, I came back, we're going to return. That's our great victory against Israel, and we're going to go to Jerusalem. They said that now that's the fire. Does that mean they still have the aspiration to want to wipe out Israel? Even after all that supposed genocide, think about what genocide they want to continue the war. Why Israel? Let me remind you, when Israel proposes a ceasefire, they ask Hamas to release the hostages because Hamas kept refusing and refusing. And what about the Gazans? And now the Gazans. Some are happy, some are saying we have to go conquer Israel. Tell me, during which genocide do the supposed victims celebrate? That they want to keep attacking and want to continue the war? Because the supposed country Israel is allegedly committing a genocide that isn't happening. Because we are Israel, the ones who have been asking Hamas to stop the war all this time. If we are the genocide, why are we the ones asking for the war to stop? Why? Because Hamas had the final say on accepting Trump's plan after Netanyahu accepted it, and it took a few days for Hamas to respond. It's a farce. There's no genocide. The flotilla wasn't made up. Did you know that when the plan was proposed, when Netanyahu was at the United Nations, they gave the speech? Then he met with Trump 5 days ago, and they proposed the plan so the fire would happen. What about the hostages? After a day and a half, Pedro Sanchez in Spain, for example, among many leaders, imposed an arms embargo on Israel. October 7th was a deeply painful day for the Jewish people. Think about that level. I mean, while the peace plans are on the table, they're disastrous. Like Pedro Sanchez and the others, they kept opposing Israel and talking about genocide. If Israel accepted a ceasefire and is waiting for Hamas to agree, how can it still be called a genocide? Do you see how the narrative collapses? How can it be that when there was a peace plan to end the war, still the flotilla with the influencers, selfie, with Barbie Hamas. I don't know why they call her Barbie, gross. How were all these influences, Greta Thunberg and Anna Kulau, and all of them, how were they going to say, "Bas, let's go to Yomisi"? Israel was already delivering 1,500 trucks of aid daily, while these idiots brought almost nothing, barely any powdered milk. They gave up. What they did was pollute the sea by throwing their phones in so that Israel wouldn't get the information. They clearly have connections with Hamas and other radical groups. But if you understand the hypocrisy, their masks fell off, they were completely exposed, the narrative is over. Sadly, we Jews have never been great at sharing our cause. And I'll give you an example. We Jews, well, there are thousands of examples. For example, we were accused of causing the Black Death, the bubonic plague, a plague that was brought by rats and all that. The Jew was blamed, since we Jews are blamed for everything. So what did they do in Europe then? Persecute the Jews, go into where the Jews lived, into the Jewish villages and kill Jews. Why? We get blamed for the Black Plague, even though it was a bubonic disease from rats. For example, the Jews poisoned the wells. Did you know that's one of the medieval myths? Jews poisoned the wells and that's why they cause diseases? Like the Jews, we have purity rituals and wash our hands before eating. Did you know that? Beyond hygiene, we do it because that's how it is. In the New Testament, they seem to criticize the Pharisees for washing their hands. We Jews have rituals of purity, of washing, of mikveh, of immersion, all of this, and that's why Jews died less during these medieval plagues. But the medieval Europeans and Westerners interpreted this the other way around, that we are the ones to blame, because how could it be that Jews are less affected by these invisible diseases? By these demons in the air, which today are called bacteria, back then demons. I'm not sure what it's called when many people die from diseases. The Jews poisoned the Christians' wells, and that's why this happens to them, because they poison the wells. Nowadays, that's not the case. Nowadays, Israel takes food away from the Gazans, not from the... They take it away, they take away their water, they want to commit genocide against them. Do you understand? A media war against Israel will always exist. It's not that the Jews sacrifice Christian children to take their blood and eat it with leavened bread, unleavened, without yeast bread. Matzo, unleavened bread, during the Pesach festival at Passover. In medieval times, there are Renaissance images where they draw how the Jews are making these blood rituals to take blood from Christian children. They used to make that up before, and it's still the same today. So think about it. In ancient times, how would you explain it to people back then? Hey bro, we don't drink Christian children's blood. Actually, we don't drink blood at all. We sell the meat to draw out the blood. We don't drink blood. We're even less likely to take a Christian child's blood to eat it. We don't do that with matzah. How would you explain that? Bring them samples? You couldn't convince them. The myth was too ingrained. It's the same thing today. How would you explain it to people? That it's explicit, that there's no genocide, that it's a myth? Afterwards, and my page, look at the number of videos. Data, samples, history, a population that increased since October 7th. But in any genocide, populations decrease. A people seeking peace, reaching out day and night. How? Does evidence amount not matter? So is that the big gap between what Israel tries to communicate and the lie they want to believe? Because their narrative, logic, and reason for existing all fall apart. Consider this. For progressives, the Gaza issue has energized them most in the past 2 years. The thing about getting together with other woke people whose lives are so boring, so insignificant that all they have in their existence is going to Starbucks, ordering a coffee, and then going to their smoke break. They are insignificant. At least the lives of people who have religion, have community, they have a transcendent aspiration, they seek the world to come. What do I know? In the woke world, there's no aspiration, only a desire to destroy the existing system because it bothers them. So, in the woke world, what has united them all this time is that they finally found the embrace of the Islamists. So finally we can go out together, with flags from a place we don't even know where it is on the map. But we wave the Free Palestine flag. They never mock the Olef Fatah flag, even though it might not even be Hamas's flag. And let's wave it. And I feel good saying, stop the genocide. That's the real issue. Didn't they get it? Simply that gave them a place, a reason to live, a reason to exist. For Pedro Sanchez, for example, it gave them an excuse to divert the lie or divert the accusations through a lie. Sorry. Accused of corruption involving his wife and brother, he must address the genocide. It suits Gustavo Petro perfectly, just like Colombia's internal issues. Let's put Palestinian flags on the table and change the subject to Palestine, the genocide, and all that. And let's go to New York with a megaphone to shout, Donald Trump, free Palestine. And how can you talk about that guy like that? Why? Because the narrative fits them perfectly. The moment the narrative falls apart for them. When it's proven that there is no genocide, because it is proven they have no reason to exist, it's over. And that's why you won't see the current protests or marches celebrating that there was that ceasefire. You won't see it. You won't see those woke people congratulating Donald Trump and Netanyahu and whoever else from the counterpart countries that, because the Arab countries are also part of the agreement. Did you know Turkey isn't an Arab country? Turkey, the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and several others aren't Arab countries. You would think they have nothing to do with it. The Teatros also took part in making sure. Multinational Arab forces will now be in Gaza, meaning the Arabs support Israel in this. They always have been. Their narrative collapses, and when it does, so does their reason for being. If their purpose collapses, they return to their miserable, meaningless lives. And they have to find a new excuse to destroy the system and have a revolutionary meaning. Daddies and mommy's kids. Because you know who the woke are. The most woke of the woke are the left-wing elites in universities. That is, the people with the best social privileges. The top 1% of the world population. They think they're the proletariat and believe they're the great Marxist workers' revolution. But they're literally the elites of their countries. But either way, their narrative is now falling apart. That's the thought I wanted to share with you with this Cesar Fuego. This Cesar Fuego doesn't mean that the war itself is over. But it is a pause, and in the end, I don't like the consequence of releasing 2,000 terrorists. I don't like it at all, nor do I ever want to keep hoping for it. I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. However, I am indeed thrilled that the hostages will soon be back home. All safe, those who are alive and in good health and who get to see their families. I'm thrilled. I'm happy that their nightmare is coming to an end, but the woke aren't happy about this.